Hi, I'm Anne-Marie from Brambleberry.com and SoapQueen.com. Today, I'm going to show you how to make goat's milk cold process soap. Believe it or not, making soap with goat's milk is just as easy as making regular cold process soap once I teach you a special trick. Now, if you haven't made cold process soap before, this is a more advanced recipe, so please stop right now and go back to the first 4 episodes of how to make cold process soap on Soap Queen TV. That'll give you the rundown on basics like fragrance oil, how to safely use lye, and all about safety equipment. Before we get started, let me give you the rundown on how to use milk in your soap recipe. Basically, a very simple way is to take 100% of the liquid that's called for in your recipe, so usually it'd be water, and replace it with 100% milk. And this works for rice milk, hemp milk, soy milk, any kind of milk that you can think of. Now, I know this sounds simple, but it's not quite as simple as you would think. That's because when milk comes into contact with lye or sodium hydroxide, the sodium hydroxide actually chemically scorches the milk. It turns it into weird colors and it smells terrible, like a really foul ammonia smell. If you're making fresh goat's milk soap and you just put your sodium hydroxide or lye directly into your fresh goat's milk, this is what happens. Notice the color is changing from a nice kind of ivory color to a more yellow and then finally a very bright yellow. It also smells extremely unpleasant. Now, it's totally fine. This would still make soap. It would make great soap, in fact. Milk is really moisturizing to your skin, but because of this natural color, it's going to be very brown. Brown soap is totally fine. It's okay, but from a design standpoint, it's difficult to get all the bright colors you might want. This soap here was made with goat's milk that I didn't do anything special to. Notice it's a little brown. And this one here was made with frozen goat's milk that then I tossed into the fridge right away. You see, heat is the enemy of your milk. The more heat that's applied to your milk, the darker the soap gets. After all, look at this soap right here. Do you see that circle in the middle? That's where the soap started going through gel phase. And just a little bit of gel phase was enough to change the hue and color of the soap. And now I'm going to show you how to avoid these issues by using my freeze method. There are 3 other techniques that I've written about in this book, How to Make Milk Soap. You can buy it at Brambleberry.com or it's available as a PDF download also. I think the freeze method is the most easy one for beginners. 24 hours ahead of time, so a whole day ahead of time. Measure out your goat's milk that you're going to use. I want you to use volume and not weight. Then pour your milk into ice cube trays. Freeze this for 24 hours. This is what you're going to use to put the lye into. This helps to lower the temperature of the entire process, giving you a more ivory or neutral colored soap that also doesn't smell all that ammonia-like in the end. Now that our oils are all mixed, it's time to prep our colors. Whenever I'm working with dry colorants, I do 1 tablespoon of a carrier oil, a light carrier oil, like sweet almond oil or avocado oil, and then mix it with 1 teaspoon of my dry powder. In this case, I'm using titanium dioxide, electric bubblegum, ultraviolet blue, and activated charcoal, all available from Brambleberry.com. Take your mini mixer and submerge it underneath the oil, kind of move it around a little bit before you turn it on, because if you turn it on with all that powder on top, poof, powder goes everywhere. Mix from lightest to darkest. This way, you don't have to rinse your mini mixer in between colors. Once all of the clumps are worked out, your colorant is ready to use. If you wanted, you could even mix up a large amount of colorant ahead of time and use this for future batches. Now it's time to prep our lye. Remember all the basic safety instructions. Cover your work surfaces, make sure your kids and your pets are out of the house or at least out of your soaping area, and give yourself an uninterrupted 30 minutes to work on this project. Most important, goggles on. These are special goggles from Brambleberry.com that have a little lip to ensure that no lye water can ever splash. Sadly enough, eyeglasses are not proper safety protection when working with fresh soap or we're working with lye. Gloves on. All right, ready to go. To ensure a nice, even ivory color, I've set my container, my heat-safe container, up in an ice bath. The reason I do this is it keeps the entire mixture cooler for longer, because the worst thing is when you spend all of this time adding the lye slowly to your frozen goat's milk, and then you get to the end and you find out that you have another 15% of lye left and you have room temperature goat's milk. The goat's milk scorches then anyways. So putting everything in an ice bath really helps. Pop out your little frozen ice cubes into a container. Make sure it's heat safe again. Then take your lye, your sodium hydroxide, and put it in just 1/2 tablespoon amounts. This is going to take you at least 10 minutes. You do about 1/2 tablespoon every 30 to 60 seconds. Slowly stir, just keep stirring the entire time. You don't want to ever leave lye water, or in this case, lye milk, unattended. Now, this looks like it's all mixed in, and look, it's a pretty nice color still. But guess what? If you stir and you're really quiet, you at home will be able to hear kind of this little clink, clink, clink. Those are little bits of undissolved lye that are still in your milk. If you soap with little bits of undissolved lye in your milk, you'll ruin your soap. You'll get lye pockets that can burn people, or at the very, very, very least, you'll have very drying bits and patches of bad soap. Keep stirring until you are 110% positive that there are no undissolved lye bits. You can't see through the milk, so it's more difficult to determine when that is. Better be safe than sorry. I am positive there are no undissolved bits of lye in here, so I'm going to add 3½ teaspoons, which is roughly 37 grams of sodium lactate. Sodium lactate helps the soap release faster, and it makes a harder bar of soap. It's basically a salt compound. My oils are right around 90 degrees, and my goat's milk and lye is right around 58 degrees. This is perfect. Pouring my goat's milk and lye mixture slowly against the side of the bowl because I'm trying to minimize bubbles. Then submerge your stick blender in your bowl. Burp it. This is very important to help take out any bubbles that might be in your mixture. Then turn on your stick blender in small, short bursts until you get a nice thin trace. Now it's time to separate your batch. Add about 1½ cups of the soap mixture to 3 other containers, leaving about 2 cups left in your big bowl. Now it's time to do color. 2 teaspoons of pink into the big bowl, 3 teaspoons of titanium dioxide into one of the smaller 1½ cup bowls, 2 teaspoons of the ultraviolet blue mixture into one of the smaller bowls, and 2 teaspoons of the charcoal into the other small bowl. And before I whisk this color in, I'm going to split my 2½ ounces of sage and lemongrass fragrance between all 4 of the bowls. Just drizzling it in, eyeballing it. All right. Now I'm going to take my whisk from light to dark. This keeps the whisk clean, ensures I don't have 4 different whisks that I have to wash up. Mixing the titanium dioxide colored soap. Okay. Mixing the pink soap. Mixing the ultraviolet blue soap. And finally, let's mix up that charcoal. Notice the soap has stayed at a perfect light trace. The sage and lemongrass from brambleberry.com gives you plenty of time to work with a lot of intricate designs with your soap. Now it's time for our in the pot swirl. Imagine a clock. Take your white soap and pour at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then whatever's left right into the middle. Do the same for the other 2 colors. Now, do 1 pass with a spatula, and then I like to make a figure 8 to make sure I get through the middle. Don't do any more than 2 total turns. You'll end up with kind of a gray mess if you overmix. Pour this into the Brambleberry 9-bar silicone cube mold. The mold does all the work. You'll be amazed with how cute these soaps look when they come out. Wow, look at those colors. Isn't this absolutely mesmerizing? It is so pretty. I love the wispy colors. Love this technique. The final step is to spritz this with 91% alcohol to help prevent soda ash, and toss this into the refrigerator right away. On the off chance that this goes through gel phase, we don't want it to, because hey, what did we learn earlier? Heat affects the final color of your soap. Now that that soap has been put to bed in the fridge, I made a batch of soap ahead of time to show you how easy it is to unmold the silicone bars once they've been sitting in the mold for about a week. I love the mold, but I will tell you, it's just a little bit persnickety. That's because it prevents air from coming down here, makes the soap a little hard to unmold. So be patient. If this soap doesn't want to come out for you right away, let it sit for another day or two, freeze it totally solid. After all, you don't want to ruin these beautiful bars of soap. This is what happens when you ruin these beautiful bars of soap and try and get the soap out too early. Do you see that kind of like weird drag marks and kind of the pulls? The soap is totally fine, but it's not as pretty as it could be. Pull away from the sides slowly. Do you see the airlock? It's just barely starting to release. Okay, then turn the whole thing over and press. Now, it's really important that when you're pressing, you're not pressing so hard that you leave dents. You just want to press it to give it a gentle pressure. I know the mold sounds like it's a lot of work, but I promise you, the bars it makes are so exquisite, it's totally worth it. Wow, this batch of soap turned out so beautiful. I love this technique mixed with this particular mold because it makes you look like a professional soap maker, even if you're kind of new. One last thing, this is a really lovely bar of soap. It's about 5.5 ounces, and if you're trying to go for more of a guess size or a sample size, I wonder what this looks like if you cut the soap horizontally. Really pretty. It's a completely different look too. And let's check it out vertically. I'm really curious about that. Huh, I like the vertical look too. I love the look of these bars, but guess what? In the shower, they're gonna feel even better. Milk soap is extraordinarily moisturizing to your skin. Because of the fat that's naturally in milk, I tend to soap at a 3 to 5% superfat and not any higher than that, because much more than that for a superfat, and you end up with lather that's kind of weighed down and is more creamy rather than bubbly. These bars are at 5% superfat, and they're gonna be wonderful in the shower. As always, with any cold process soap recipe, make sure to cure this and let it dry for 4 to 6 weeks before using it, giving it away, or selling it. Until next time, thanks for joining me on Soap Queen TV. Happy soaping. These soaps, this in the pot swirl technique absolutely makes you look like a soap making genius when really it's just the technique with the cool bars of soap. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Most important, goggles on and gloves on. After all, you only get one set of eyes.